Zoe, thank you so much. Of course, again, for the introduction. And thank you to everyone behind the scenes of Planet Earth, David, everybody else on the team. Actually, I don't even know. Uh, I don't know the names of everybody, but I appreciate always the fact that anyone is out there working in the service of poetry and bringing us together in these ways, uh, especially given the world that we have. Um, and that's the sort of move to have community beyond this often legendary solitary space of a writer in a room. So it's always wonderful to get to do things like this. Um, so thanks again, Zoe, for that introduction. And everyone, I'm gonna try to stay uh, for as much as I can for the entire event, you know. But I think it's best that I read when I'm not at my most tired level in all of this. So I will read from the Dyzgraphxst. The Dyzgraphxst is a book length poem that is written in the structure, in the form of a 7-act play. Um, the uh, how can I put this in a way that does not completely exhaust all of you? There's a dramatis personae, um, which is first person I, second person I, third person I. And the voice, the central voice of the text, is a figure named Jejun. Jejun is the place where these three perspectives of the lyric I become splintered and refracted. I am looking at the nature of personhood, the nature of the self, um, in a world of intensified capitalist fascism, intensified uh, other forms of nationalism, climate disaster, that kind of stuff. And certainly my own location in the eye is that, you know, I'm a Black woman who is descended from enslaved peoples, uh, part of the Black diaspora. And so that is where my eye is located, but your eye will be located wherever you are. I was saying earlier that I meant for the text to really be participatory. And so the reader has the reader's own work to do. So here I will read from Act number 6, called Ain't I a Madness, elsewhere called Archaeology or Case Closed. Deep log these bones, a common lift, a self mired in theft. Then again, such brutality, verbs tragic as the margins. Start here with the stately pronoun again, the needle and thread frantic phone call on the backsides of the years. I could call harvest of birdsong on that corner alone, a madness, or I could call it the meddled return of 45 minutes, the clinking season of rain. Would you accept this collect call from God knows where? A life now refused in the gutter, circus flags, a pending republic, ended as the heart should end or arise, in the flash flooded air, a birthplace answering to unrecognizable versions of elsewhere. When I was young, Jejun gave I the rejected things. Example, the breathable air. Example, the clean sea. Example, the plate with just enough. Example, the cryolite. Any room, anyway. Example, The mononuclear I was a sea of graces, not peace or surface. I raged, I gathering sound for the bearer. Jejun, eventually, the trees will rush the river. Inevitably, the houses will blot the map through one cynical night. And what else, Dudu darling? Tell me anyway, how you walk all these rivers, and is I feeling the shudders of all the caves behind you? Without forcing the point, will you tell the hounds that they too are deeply wounded, are too a song of citizen wrung out to dry in the felt up fields, disunity the blueprint of tanked up roads? Or call it a decorative cry. Call it the wind jostling the shutters with news of the circus animals, I among them, the pigs, the hen, the cats, trading our father, his languish, for the strange freedom of the dog, that in its short speech it keeps its doggedness a small complaint. Slogans in Heimlich maneuver. Jejun, all of these words are held to idols newly doomed anyway. But let us not lock up this vault just yet. Say the written thing is direct, a line to a nerve, one electric thing to another. Perhaps this is why I can say the word love to you, Jejun, and you will point at the mouth and admit there is its primitive ground. But the pointing, the tragedy of ampere things is all around us, and we must pretend this is new every time they camera the vista with laws, making new goads about our lives. We are not the sharpened things they make of us, Jejun. Here, drop your one saved day into this one, and let us meet us upright. Have we eaten so many salt preserved repasts, even now, even in the middle of this day? There's no use dumping I into this bay. I who'll bump that track when they come for you too. Will your face write willingly into the air when they are not looking, that you know I've been waiting here at this corner to see you all day? Do they search you for whatever before they make the searching illegal? What about that recipe from Mum's cold roasted kidney, contraband of hallelujahs, the shea soap she doctored in the kitchen, good enough an anti-inflammatory aid, your mother's maiden name, some abortions? What will they say about the usefulness of their endless killing notations? What now, in this thin hour, have I faded from the miswritten main? So when you call me Jejun, when you call me I'll say I will answer. Because to know we are one in the same, to know this much, enough for the nights to sleep well, this year and the next. The starving crowd has its talents, wordless corridors, famished for love or love's vocabularies, a cosmos never tested in mud, a city in its rust-cultured tap water, arcades of scrap, the most honest Ed's ever been. Rust, PVC, another whip, another route to poor dreams, badges, name it, and just as soon it disappears. A future paid in Caban, watches void of their work of keeping time, a minute schism in a bottle's broken neck, a commerce of annulled records, trees remembering fruit, the foolish work of asserting a thing. What a hard thing, the freedom that bends the back. In an infinite series where we approach each other, Jejun, forked in some road that might have cropped up anyhow to cross us, barely ready. Or were we unaware that we had cracked I to save us, split us three ways, as the centuries that made us possible left us. With all possible comprises, we have this one existence, this so many elsewheres, in others I, and in every elsewhere, us both. And so you have arrived, Jejun, and so I, in a million pictures of our face. And still, I was not myself. I am not myself. Myself resembles something having nothing to do with me, and the idea that I would like a holiday, a whole lifetime from this bend, where I have found my good sense by its reach into my acceptance. Or, o mua 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 mua, tout long cod ni boot, how this must end. How dare the undead nerve in my ear that does not behave as its length? It exists to think about the echo one loses as a spaceship elides space shit. We're responsible for the decomposing as the things I calls strange, things called mad. We give to no one the shape of the shape of the shape of a thing that light curves over time, length to width to depth, and all of us, its information. In the river's swelling urges, nothing drowns, but I sweep the perimeter, drowning in my study of dreams, spent in their ordinary unordinariness, their semblance of the world, their bargain to arrive judged by ended things, old money, new money, public executions, family before brothers, before sisters built as beach forts, before I found blue vines in the trees, crisscrossed to swoops, swoops I would lie in and wait for onset, settled in familiar branches, branches with cold fruit, fruit for the shut mouth. How else to honor mothers who claim no hunger in order to feed their children? Children I would suffer if my names were big enough. If I practiced hanging upside down taxonomically through the world of waking newly through binoculars. How much is that life still worth? All the nickel and diming, when the sweeping vultures are still full vultures, even upside down, even binoculared. I counted them, built fires from dry moss and seagrass and dug bait. I dangled worms from my hooked hand, hooked a great coral crab, left it in my wooden trap, larger than my head. Head I turn over to check the sea's pulse. Soon I'd give this all back to the sea, throw even the sea back. Sea that's kept me loosed, followed as we've been, we in our summer of spent things, of met mothers, mothers who were brothers, brothers who followed us here, who are here as clouds as unsafe bridges, how to suffer rain, the first drop and last drought, how the swollen hours defy despair, sibilants of dreams, names to hum gently, reassembled limb by necessary limb, after mistaken hallucinogenic mushrooms for regular mushrooms. I believe myself read, content for cheerful songs. I am not the first to begin here in the hard silence of forests, not the first to hear the gnashing of roots into dirt. I've been less full of melody. I hear the birds abandon their branches. I mean to suspend again, hollow and stately as suits. I mean the body, a catalogue of bridges. Jejun, whole towns, the body, an abandonment of riches. The body afloat in flight at night, sure of nothing but the pebbled paltriness of daydreams. Here, a parade of haggard selves in whose hands the machete has found itself, the flesh. I walk along something still latent, dark, its embers prone to blaze suns, an ululating mouth here, a whimpering salvation there, passé saboteurs dragged through the dark. Is this where life can carry over? Is this the breeze through which whole worlds reorder, postpone themselves, in the full speed collision of logic and opinion, the hard contradiction of missing persons, of sterilized smiles in waiting rooms, in every endangered language, and other ways to invent the water, 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 and other ways to invent, as if it were birch bark, wary of the flame. Kindness ignited from the root, the foam dry moss, model of a cave's beachfront. Release is always fiction white, but let me not pass in its temper, as the red ants form gourmets on someone's beaten lodge. In an hour, it will be reduced to planks, dark cedar, paying off a debt. Go past the boundary of the history you must soften. If it swells in you, rounds your belly, I am sorry, Jejun, to have broken the seal of your embrace, to have stood here and only watched you work in the darkness, in the complaint of the upkeep of their cottage, or a beach house, or hunger by any new name. Here, the footstool's 10,000 folios between the locust root, its strained rings thriving as the animus of my practiced mind. Well, now stop this misery, this conceit. What use is the sky that floods our clemency of bones? It gives death that itinerant shove of the head into the dark, hated instantly where it lands, bewildering the blockho. That love-shattered mirror, measuring the seasons. This world to fix by hand. My illegible hand overcrowds what I need to say. I cannot buy my writing hand, own act, own thought, or I would perfect it. Either is or ain't a clearness of mind, like that smogged city left behind. The maddening drum my father owns plays in steering time. Its rhythms escape the eager day, like woven vats wandering the market, or last wickets knocked down mid-cricket match. I'm thinking of the great disease of this bill, that coin, and the ladder he used at the base of the savannah in 1942. Still there today, profane and revered, where he couldn't resist what it resists now, the evolving riff of the Calypsonian's threnody, and every eye, even the lens, even the panorama of this country, burned into eye, leavening our meanings, the calming arrogance of dwindling enough to stay awake. Through keeping wake, the entropic boons of the garden call to live again, flatbush roses, tartan lilies, a shelter the shape of a valley, its quiet breath after a storm, unexpected porcelain of scorpions, silk petals stacked to Portuguese lace, the anagrammatic filter of coconut husks, aroma of rosewater, marjoram balm, watercress, invitation between lives, elliptical thirsts, what to recognize in these half needs, perplexing these forgotten evenings of ablutions. Okay, but this would kill. This neighborhood full of dogs at the post office. Nothing so ordinary as train tracks to let me move through the world un-x-rayed, unfiltered, unvoiced in a vote. To know that woman singing at the entrance of the train station, that muscular song she weaves, beg she outlives the registers of her addictive refrain. If there's fog here and someone's rags, here's evening too, and a mumbling, few men, evening here in that voice, but no train. If the day is always already begun, at what point does it break? What percentage of it survives our beheadings? Or bullets traveling through the city, lipping roll-ups for 35.99 per hour, finding black targets, helping along what must be condemned, water-stained ceilings, black holes, unknowable scriptures, I, paralingual since the jump, folie à deux, that power-hungry security guard pouring poison into his lover's half-drunk bottle of misdiagnosis. At what point does this day's own hand work itself enough to sleep, or death, or to whatever? How much and for how long? Which human is psychic enough? Given myself. Whose rights to shed to innocence? Given myself. Given the long song I play. Given the long day. The weekly diatribes of rainbows in the summer. How else to live? How else these leaps in logic against a God obsessed with white? A God obsessed. This generic panic makes me want to throw paint or paint the town aflame. If I had not stumbled in this place, if homelessness too simple a condition for what I lived, if for the people who live this still, who I only now glimpse through this windshield, myself wanting to pull over, give them coffee, shave their chests, twist their hair into buns, or more elegant things. Needless that I should only have new money, or old, or whatever, to survive the iota. I tell you again, I am not myself. I resemble amusement parks built for consolation, for our dusty interactions, for the mimic, jejune, all of these words, microphone the wordless material. Anyway, thank you all for listening.
Oh,
Oh,
that was amazing.
brava. Oh. Bravo.